It was New Year's Day, marking our 6th wedding anniversary, and for the first time, our family of 4 was visiting my husband Kevin's parents. The entire situation began with just one unexpected sentence from Kevin. "I want to settle things. I need you to come with me." Kevin, usually so full of smiles, wore an uncharacteristically serious expression, probably because he was feeling nervous. "Of course," I responded, managing a smile of my own in an effort to ease his tension. "Let's handle this together." Kevin softened a bit, offering me a gentle smile in return. I knew his anxiety was rooted in this being no ordinary holiday visit. Usually, this time of year was filled with joy, exchanging Christmas gifts, our kids opening their many presents, and us showering gifts upon our relatives' children. But we were aware this year would be different. Kevin's parents had been increasingly cold toward us, and we feared their hostility would extend not just to us, but to our 2 children as well. The thought of that hurt, but I knew we couldn't avoid it forever. So, I resolved to follow Kevin's lead, trusting that together, we'd navigate whatever came our way. Kevin and I worked at the same construction company. I had joined straight out of middle school, eager to help my mom, who'd raised me and my siblings alone since I was in 4th grade. My goal was simple, to ease her burden as soon as I could. Though it wasn't common for women to work on construction sites, I'd made up my mind. When I told my mom, she looked surprised, thinking I'd be in an office like she had been, but I was determined to be out in the field. I could never sit behind a desk all day. I had told her, I want to work outside where things feel alive. Despite her concerns, I argued with the company's CEO, insisting I wanted to work on site because the pay was better. My mom knew me well enough to realize that once I had decided something, I wasn't going to change my mind, so she didn't try to stop me. On my first day, the site supervisor called me forward to meet the rest of the crew. They were clearly taken aback. It's not every day you see a young girl straight out of school standing among seasoned workers. Sensing their surprise, I introduced myself confidently. "I'm Mary," I said. "Feel free to train me hard. I don't need any special treatment." There was a moment of silence. Then someone shouted with exaggerated disbelief, "Kevin, you've only been here a month yourself." Laughter rippled through the group, breaking the tension, and just like that, the day began. Though I had asked to be treated like everyone else, the workers were kind and patient, helping me get acclimated to the job. Kevin, in particular, stood out. He was the one who'd cracked the joke on my first day, and from that moment on, he seemed to have taken me under his wing. 3 years older than me, Kevin was the kind of guy who always lightened the mood, even when things got tense. He patiently taught me the ins and outs of the job, and whenever the work got physically demanding, he was always there to lend a hand. Over time, I found myself drawn to him, his kindness, his humor, his willingness to help others without a second thought. About 6 months into the job, Kevin and I were assigned to move materials together, which meant riding in the same truck. I had developed a bit of a crush on him by then, and sitting beside him in that small cab, my heart raced. I didn't know what to say, and the silence between us felt heavy. After a while, I finally blurted out the first thing that came to mind. "So, Kevin, what made you join this company?" He glanced at me, then answered, "I wanted to get my freedom sooner, you know?" His response caught me off guard, and I suddenly felt like I'd touched on something too personal. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "I didn't mean to pry." But Kevin, ever the optimist, waved it off with a smile. "Don't worry, Mary, I made the right choice." His words made me admire him even more, and before I knew it, I blurted out something I hadn't planned. "Would you like to go out with me?" The moment the words left my mouth, I froze, my face flushing with embarrassment. I stared down at my hands, too mortified to look at him. "Good to see you," Kevin said softly as the car slowed to a stop at a red light. I glanced up, meeting his gaze. His eyes were gentle, filled with a quiet warmth that put me at ease. Not long after we started dating, I began to understand the deeper meaning behind something Kevin had once shared with me. Back when we were delivering materials together, he had said he wanted to be free as soon as possible, and it wasn't until later that I realized the weight of those words. Kevin had a 2-year age gap with his older brother, Sam. Sam had always been the golden child, exceptional grades, praised by teachers, the epitome of academic success. Kevin, on the other hand, was smart but never seemed to measure up in his parents' eyes. His grades were above average, but that wasn't enough for them. They constantly compared him to Sam, and Kevin had grown up feeling like he could never quite reach his parents' expectations. But it wasn't just the comparisons that stung. Kevin's parents had poured all their affection and attention into Sam, leaving Kevin feeling invisible. While Sam attended one of the top public middle schools in the county, Kevin went to the local public school, barely receiving a glance from his parents. During those years, their attention seemed fixed on Sam's achievements, leaving Kevin without any emotional support or even a sense of belonging at home. By the time Kevin reached high school, he had already decided that the moment he graduated, he would leave his parents' house for good, and the day after his graduation, he made good on that promise. "I'm leaving tomorrow," Kevin had announced at the dinner table, his tone calm but firm. His mother had barely reacted, simply responding with, "Is that so?" His father said nothing at all. Sam, of course, wasn't there. He was off at a prestigious public university, living up to the family's high expectations. Years later, Kevin and I got married when I was 20, and he was 24. We had a small, intimate wedding, inviting my family, a few close friends, and some colleagues from work. Kevin had made a quiet request, not to invite his parents, and so, we didn't. We celebrated our love surrounded by the people who truly cared for us, leaving the past behind us. Kevin's words, "I want to be genuinely blessed from the bottom of my heart," carried a sincerity that I couldn't argue with. It wasn't about showing strength, it was his true desire. The following year, we welcomed our first son, Jack, and in the 3rd year of our marriage, our daughter, Sarah, was born. We were never wealthy, but being a part of a loving, happy family was enough for me. Kevin, as far as I knew, had no contact with his family, so, when he mentioned returning to his parents' house for New Year's, I was surprised. "Just be yourself," he advised, but I knew it wouldn't be easy to act naturally. I couldn't help but wonder what kind of reception awaited us, how his parents would react, and how Kevin would interact with them and his brother, Sam. Would he be forced to relive the painful memories from high school? These anxious thoughts filled my mind in the days leading up to our trip back to his hometown. It had been 6 years since Kevin last visited his home. When we arrived, 2 children greeted us. "Mom, Dad, who are these people?" the older boy asked before darting into the house. A few moments later, a woman around 50 years old, with neat features and long hair, appeared. This had to be Kevin's mother. "Long time no see," Kevin greeted her. "It's been a while," she replied, her tone distant and cold. The atmosphere made it clear we weren't welcome. Inside the living room, Kevin's father and Sam's spouse were already seated. The conversation flowed easily enough, but it revolved entirely around Sam, his job at the city bank, his children's extracurriculars, and their upcoming exams. It was clearly meant to provoke us. Our kids clung to my side, picking up on the tense mood. Kevin's mother reappeared with a smile, handing a small envelope to Sam's children, who lit up with joy. It was obvious how much she adored them. Then, turning to us, she said sharply, "We don't give New Year's gifts to the children of a high school dropout's wife." Her words cut deep, but I clenched my fist and endured it. Just as Kevin had advised, I had promised him I wouldn't react, and I wasn't about to break that promise. Our children, sensing the tension, stayed silent by my side, mirroring my resolve. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence, broken only when Kevin finally spoke. "Well, I guess this will be our last visit. After today, we won't be seeing each other again." His tone was bright, almost casual, but the weight of his words left everyone stunned. Even I was taken aback by his unexpected response. His parents and Sam just sat there, frozen. "Mary, isn't the CEO supposed to arrive soon?" Kevin asked me, glancing at the clock. "Yes, they said around 11, I replied, noticing it was just a few minutes before. Kevin's parents, still in shock, listened as if trying to make sense of the situation. At exactly 11:10, the doorbell rang. Kevin's mother went to answer it, and moments later, she returned with a complex expression on her face. Behind her stood the CEO of our company, calm and collected. "I apologize for the unexpected visit during the New Year holiday," the CEO said politely, but Kevin thought today would be the right time to talk. Kevin's parents and Sam exchanged confused looks, not understanding what was happening. "Mr. Smith, We've concluded our business. I'll take care of the adoption matter from here, Kevin stated clearly, making sure his parents and Sam understood. The sudden mention of adoption left Kevin's parents visibly stunned. Are you sure you explained everything clearly? You have a tendency to make decisions based on your own assumptions, the CEO remarked, showing his familiarity with Kevin's personality. Kevin shook his head. My parents have been ignoring us since we got here. Their attitude says it all. Turning to Kevin's parents, the CEO straightened up, his voice calm but firm. I've been considering adopting Kevin, and he has agreed. However, I felt it was only right to have an open discussion with both of you. That's why I came here today, to pay my respects and talk about it. As the CEO laid out his intentions, Kevin's parents and Sam sat in stunned silence. They seemed too shocked to respond, perhaps realizing for the first time how highly Kevin was regarded by others. They could only listen as the CEO praised Kevin's dedication, his character, and his achievements. The topic of adoption had first come up about 6 months prior. The CEO and his wife, who had no children of their own, wanted Kevin to eventually take over the company. Kevin, initially unsure, had tried to decline. I'm not cut out for that, he had said, but the CEO simply smiled and replied, Are you sure? Everyone but you thinks you're the perfect fit for this. Those words had touched Kevin deeply, and for the first time, he broke down in tears. It was overwhelming to realize how many people truly saw and appreciated him. When the CEO first shared the adoption proposal with me, Kevin explained it with a hint of embarrassment, but I could see how much it meant to him. Kevin has been like a son to us, the CEO continued, now addressing Kevin's parents directly. He gave us the experience of walking a bride down the aisle, something I never thought I'd have. He glanced at me with a warm smile, referring to how he had accompanied me to Kevin's wedding in place of my own father. Even after this heartfelt explanation, Kevin's parents said nothing. The silence hung heavy in the room. Goodbye, Kevin said finally, his voice carrying a sense of finality. It was clear this was his last farewell to his parents and Sam. I beg your pardon, the CEO added politely as we stood to leave. As we headed to the door, for reasons unknown, everyone followed us. Kevin's parents and Sam looked as though they were struggling to accept what had just happened, their faces blank and pale, as if they were still processing the reality of the situation. Wow, that's a cool car, Sam's children exclaimed, wide-eyed as they saw the CEO's car parked outside. Our family climbed into the car, and I rolled down the window to nod one last time. Kevin's parents and Sam stood there, their expressions frozen in disbelief. As the car began to move, Kevin broke the silence. Dad, I'm counting on you from here on. I appreciate you, I added with a smile. Then, after a brief pause, our 2 children, though shy at first, spoke up in unison. Grandpa, we're counting on you.